Good evening and welcome to This is a Classic Live. Woo! Yes. Thank you all so much for coming. This is a Classic is a podcast that is an offshoot from Hedgepig Ensemble Theater and Expand the Canon, where we work to establish gender equity in the classical canon. Yes, we love, we live. This is a Classic is a podcast, and traditionally it's two curators sitting down to have a nice chat about one of the plays from our fabulous published lists as part of Expand the Canon. But tonight, you all get the very, very special treat of having all five of us on stage to gush about our now 36 full folio of plays that we have put out there as part of Expand the Canon. Yes. So super fabulous. That's super exciting. And then after we're done gushing, we'll have a fabulous roundtable with some amazing artistic directors who we look forward to partnering with and making some fabulous classical theater magic. I would like to take a moment to honor that we are standing on the island of Mannahatta, the traditional land of the Lenape-Hoking people. Tonight we come together to rebuild the legacies of under-recognized playwrights and artists. But we should all take a moment to consider the histories of violence, colonization, and imperialism that have sought to bury the stories of the traditional stewards of this land. As an organization, as artists, and as people, we acknowledge these artists, these stories, and the continuing struggle to return the land to its native caregivers. You can get some more information about the movement to give the land back at landback.org. And without further ado, please welcome the curators for Expand the Canon!
This is our history. This is our legacy.
There we go. That's a fabulous song that was recorded by some of our original Hedgepig Ensemble Theater members. So first, introduce ourselves. We're going to go around. We're going to say our name, our pronouns, how many years we've been curating, and our favorite classical theater trope, because we see so many of them. So again, hi, my name is Gagarin. My pronouns are they, them. I have been curating for now on my second year. And my favorite classical theater trope is pants rolls. Women in pants. I love them. Note, I'm not wearing any. Emily?
Fair. Hi, I'm Emily Lyon, she, her. I'm the artistic director of Hedgepig. I've been curating for 5 years, which has been delightful. And I really love the, you take off your glasses, you take off your hat, and suddenly, you're a new person. That's my favorite.
Hi, I'm Kalina, she, her pronouns. I've been curating for 2 years as well. My favorite trope is twins that don't look like twins.
It's a classic. My name is Sky. I use she, her pronouns. I've been a curator for 4 years, going 5 years. Emily's correcting me. And my favorite classical theater trope is those women who are written to be the villains, but then as you get older, you're like, nah, she kind of had a point. She was right.
Hi, everybody. My name is Teresa Cox, she, her, hers. I am the Director of Outreach and Engagement with Hedgepig. I have been a curator for 1 month. And I'm new to Hedgepig also. I've been with the company for about 7 months. And my favorite trope, I like a good witch. What can I say? I like a good witch, a goddess, something metaphysical. Give me a little metaphysical, and we have a play.
Awesome. It's so funny to do this live. This is great. Hi. So this project has grown so much. We started it in 2020. So some of us are saying we've been doing this for 5 years. This is going into our 5th year, which is bananas. So we started with a database of 500 plays. We now have an internal database of 7,761 titles by women and non-binary writers through history. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we have a research committee that helps us find all of those titles, and God bless. So every year, it takes this team and our team of reading committee, who is usually 30 plus folks, about 1,387 hours to read about 250 plays, and then we read all of them again and again and again to choose each list of 9 classic plays. So all of our first 4 years, we've put out 9 classic plays that currently span 4 centuries and 5 continents. If you know any dead Antarctic women who wrote plays, please call me. So now we have 36 plays, a full folio of plays by women through history that should be added to the classics. Hence, this is a classic. And that's really exciting. So originally, thank you all for your patience. We were supposed to do this event back in September when we released our 4th list. And it was going to be kind of a different event, but don't worry, we've cooked up something real fun for you. So thanks for coming back.
Yeah, thank you all. So instead of talking about our list of plays from this past year, we're going to highlight our favorite plays from the past 3 years instead.
4 years.
4 years. I'm so sorry. I can totally
That's
do math.
okay.
And because we can't be here all night, unfortunately, even though I know all of you just want to like listen to us talk, we're just gonna pick a couple of our favorites, and you all should go listen to the podcast episodes on them, and or listen to the podcast episodes on all of them, and or read all of the plays available on our website. So how this is gonna work is I'm gonna pick someone up here at random. Don't worry. And I'm gonna time you and say you have 1 minute to tell me one of your favorite plays and tell me why it's a favorite. Sound good? Okay,
Let's go.
You're gonna start.
Okay. Work.
Ready?
Yes.
Go.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you guys about Day of the Swallows by Estela Portillo Tremblay. This is a play from our new list, and what it's a fantastic, it's a thriller, it's a love language to queer utopia, and also I feel like the ostensible violence of binaries, of indigenous versus colonizing forces, queerness versus straightness, men versus women, future and past. It's a truly beautiful, beautiful play that for me was reminiscent of Tennessee Williams. Yeah, that's what I'll say about it.
And that was less than 1 minute. Good job.
Oh my God, I'll keep it short and keep it sweet.
You don't have anything to add about that play? I know a couple of us had it as our favorites.
I do just have to throw in that this play, Day of the Swallows, also features one of Teresa's favorite tropes, magicians. And that's the only context we'll give you. If you haven't read the play, you have to now read it to find out why there are magicians.
Yes, and Sky and I, this podcast episode is not out yet. It'll be coming out in the new year, and Sky and I do a very, very deep dive on the magicians and what that represents, because it's also a play that I think classical plays, we don't often let them sort of toe their feet into more kind of abstract concepts, but this is a play that certainly leans into that and welcomes a more stretching of the world. And it's playwright Estella herself was just like diverse in her assets and abilities. She was a teacher. She ran her own radio talk show. She wrote several plays. She established one of the first bilingual theaters in El Paso, Los Pobres. And she's an incredibly accomplished woman, and we are honored to be able to uplift one of her plays. And I'm so glad that more people are hopefully going to be able to get to read this thing, because there's also, for you out there who are looking for monologues or killer scenes, really, really amazing stuff in there.
All right. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. I would love to talk about one of our plays from our inaugural list in 2020, rest in peace, which was The Drag by Mae West. The Drag by Mae West is, I think, such an overlooked piece of queer theatrical history. Most people know of Mae West as a movie star. She was also an accomplished writer and an activist. And The Drag, though it was never performed on Broadway, was like a really transgressive play that she actually wrote through a devising process with a bunch of queer men living in the West Village in the 1920s. The play is a really authentic depiction of the struggles of queer men during that period. It is a really authentic portrayal of queer friendships. There is a drag ball on stage in the middle of the play. And those relationships, although, these are characters that are facing a lot of discrimination and trauma, those depictions of friendship feel really real and authentic and feel very much like what those relationships are for queer people today. And it's a really beautiful play. And there's a
That's
drag ball, like I
1
said, which is where you
minute.
can do
Did she get arrested for indecency for this one? Or I know she wrote sex too. One of them she got arrested for.
She got arrested for the play Sex, which was on Broadway, and that one she did get arrested for.
And went to jail in a limo,
Yes, slay.
which is my favorite fact in the world, maybe. It's great.
She is also, I think, one of those people that she has sort of like the Marilyn Monroe treatment a little bit, where people sort of like vilify her, I think because she was seen as like this sex symbol or whatever, and so people didn't think of her as like an accomplished, smart, capable woman. They saw her for her looks alone. And if you read about her, if you read her writing, she's like a really transgressive figure in a lot of ways, and a really fascinating person, and was somebody we were very, very excited to honor and uplift.
I just think it's so interesting now in the conversations we're having about across the country that even the title of this is going to be intense for some communities. And I think saying, well, no, it's a classic. It's classic theater. Could be a great in if we can sneak it in.
And that's a trope that we probably could have addressed in terms of a trope of drag in classical theater. Well, a little bit we talked about it with women in the pants plays. But yeah, it is a classic trope. It's been around forever, and the backlash that we see now is just sort of obscene and stupid, but it is what it is, yeah.
Okay, so if you want to transgress gender roles, consider the drag.
That was also one of the first episodes of This Is a Classic I ever listened to, and it is one of my favorites. It's very well done.
Okay, everyone go listen to Gig's favorite podcast episode. All right, Teresa, do you want to go next?
Sure. All right. So, if you are looking for a play that deals with the intense political and human issues surrounding genocide, colonialism, if you're looking for a play of where you are talking about horrors that happen as people are trying to fight for their freedom, and how things like religion are used as oppressive forces, then I've got a play for you. It's written by a little playwright named Lorraine Hansberry, and the play's called Les Blancs. This is a play that, one reason that this play is a classic is because it does what a lot of plays, and especially now, we kind of teased it a little bit with talking about the drag issue, especially now, so many playwrights want to deal with political and social issues, and so many of them don't know how to do it through dramatic writing. What you get instead is an essay on stage, which is fine. No, it's not. Don't let me read it. Don't put that on stage. But what Lorraine did, and I promise you, when you read this play, that's when you see an American master, because she made fully fledged human beings. She made some of the fiercest, hottest dialogues and monologues you'll ever hear or see. And she made you see people who obviously are villains, but see them three-dimensionally, which is very hard to do. I'm probably over a minute.
Yes, but Lorraine Hansberry can't be contained.
Okay,
so.
All right, so yeah, I could talk all day about Miss Lorraine. And what's funny is because we all know her as the first Black woman to be produced on Broadway. I think it was '59 with A Raisin in the Sun. She also was educated through W.E.B. Du Bois, and all of these great, iconic Black intellectuals came through their house in Chicago. But moreover, she was always from a very young age really interested in Black liberation, Pan-Africanism, and how it applied in the Americas and how it applied in Africa. And she said, she has this quote from '51 that says she wanted to write a classic play for a classic people. Mm-hmm. And I think it's like mic drop on that one, enough said. And the sad part is she left us, I think, at 34, somewhere in there. And she actually didn't 100% complete the play. Her ex-husband, Nemiroff, and some other colleagues kind of helped finish it to what we know of it today. But it is a classic. Check it out. I'm probably way over time, but
you know what? Enough said on that.
Yeah.
I think this is a classic. Check it out. Classic place for classic.
I'll just
people.
add, if I could make everyone in America read one play, it would be Le Blanc.
Work.
Can't follow that. Do you want to share your favorite play next?
Sure.
Besides Le Blanc.
Yes. God, there's so many. Yes. Okay. So the play I read when I was like, okay, this expand the canon thing is going to work, was from our first list, A Bold Stroke for a Husband. And I am on a campaign, I kid you not, that this play should permanently replace Taming of the Shrew. It has everything you want from Taming of the Shrew, and in fact, it is actually what you want Taming of the Shrew to be instead. Instead of having two women characters who have sort of half personalities, and then you have to turn yourself into a pretzel to make the ending kind of okay if you're like a feminist, and if you're not, why are you doing this play? I have so many questions for you. I don't want to talk, actually, it's fine. But the point is, Bold Stroke for a Husband, you've got 5 dynamic women characters. They all have agency. They all move the play forward. They all have like their own opinions on romance, and it is funny as heck. Was that a minute?
That was less. Good job.
I just also want to highlight what Emily said of like, this play is so fun. This play is on the page funny. This is a play you will read and laugh out loud reading. There's a whole bit of like, it has the wonderful theater trope of like all of the absurd suitors that come to call, and they're all just hysterically, whimsically over the top, and on the page hysterically funny. Just an absolute treat. Also, for any resident acting company, there's no bad roles in this play. It's all just really, really good writing, really snappy, really clever, and just a great time.
Yeah. Well, because I saw we did a reading of this play last year, and I saw it, and I often find that, like, even as, like, a classics lover, you know, you go see Shakespeare, and you're like, well, they've been talking for a really long time, and they're still talking, and we're still in this scene. Okay, cool. But when I saw Bold Stroke for a Husband, I was shocked at how quickly it clipped by, mostly because of the fantastic comedy and the amazing performances. Hi, Sky, you were in that. And it was like, oh, okay, so this is what a classical comedic night could feel like. And especially given that it was just a reading with music stands, not even full-fledged production and fabulous, like, clowning falling down that, like, some of the suitors could really kick ass at.
So there it is. Anyone who wants to go produce that and do some clowning, consider.
I will shout out one of our partners, Island Shakespeare Festival, who did produce that last summer, and it was really great. I'm not biased. I directed it. Yeah. But the play is great.
And Kalina, what's your favorite play?
Yeah, great question. Okay, so one of my favorite plays, to bring the mood down a tiny bit, but not too much, is actually by one of my now favorite playwrights after I read this play, Wakako Yamauchi, and her play And the Soul Shall Dance, which is this beautiful, just like seemingly very simple but deceptively deep, complex play about Japanese American farmers pre-internment camps. Yes, they existed pre-internment camps as well. And it is about these two families of farmers who are neighbors, one of whom, his daughter is arriving from Japan to join him. And it's about how these families sort of navigate assimilation, navigate each other, try to figure out what a community looks like, how they help each other, and just manage the struggles of trying to make a living as a farmer, as a Japanese American farmer in America.
I find every time we do a list, there's like one play that is the first one that we're like, oh, that's got to be on the list. And for me, And the Soul Shall Dance was the first, like, this is our anchor. Like, that year, I was like, no, this is it. We found one. Okay, we'll start here and we'll build everything else around it.
This play, for me, lives in this sort of genre of, like, Steinbecky, like, sort of great American plains, they're in the farmers and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm clearly a city girl. But in a way that feels like very, 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 like, what people think of as sort of, like, quintessentially, like, American literature, and to, like, have a different perspective on that is, I think, really quintessential to, like, expanding the canon. But also, yeah, it's just, like, a very grounded, earthy, beautiful play. Some great roles for women also, some really heartbreaking female characters in that play, and very much about, like, young womanhood as well. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's heartbreaking and beautiful. It
also has one of the most compelling, like, end scenes I've ever read in one of our Expand the Canon plays. I don't want to spoil it, but the ending is, like, just reading the play, it brought me to tears, because it is, like, first of all, it's like the title of the play happening in one moment, and also because it's like you're watching this entire play, and it's very much about like this tension that I think all the characters are existing between, like being sort of in this very kind of classically American Steinbecky like environment, but they themselves are trying to find not necessarily their place within that. They're just trying to find their place where they can survive and thrive and be happy, and like the entire sort of world around them keeps rejecting that, and like watching that struggle play out is crazy. And it's also like when I tell people about this play, they're like, people wrote plays about that? And it's like, yes. Yes, they did.
And they did it very well. Go read it. All right, who wants to go next? Should we go back to gigs?
Oh, me for round 2?
Yeah.
Okay, for sure.
Ready?
Because the other play that's my favorite is the one that you and I did our podcast episode
Yes, we
on.
did.
Both of my plays are from the new list. I have read all the other old plays, I promise. I just feel really, really passionate about these two. And also because these two were two of the ones that I discovered on our, like, when we were passing through. These were both ones that I found, and I was like, these are going on. And I was like, they have to. So this play is Mother of 1084 by Mahasweta Devi. For me, this one, Bertolt Brecht, the mother, eat your heart out. Like, she's got you down on the floor. This is a play that occurs. So Sujata is a mother in a moderately well-off family, and on the eve of her daughter's engagement party is coinciding with the 2-year anniversary of her son Brati's death. Brati died under semi-unsure circumstances, and she basically then spends this next day unraveling what happened behind his death, which was that he was being an active rebel against their current corrupt government and was working to uplift and support lower... Oh my God, already?
Keep going.
Uplift and free the lower castes from their oppressive system. And as a result of that, he was killed by the state. But she had no idea about this. And this play basically follows her through not just realizing that that was a truth that her son had hidden from her, but that she is playing a very active role in the continual oppression and in the power structure that ultimately murdered her son. As a woman who is well off, as a woman who lives in a seat of power, and as a woman who can afford to ignore and not see the injustice around her. And it is a realization that is like so large, it just like shatters her whole world. I'll just shout out one of my favorite things about this play is the woman-on-woman scenes in this play are heart-shattering and unbelievably cutting in the way that they don't hold back. And Mahasweta Devi was a woman who was known for never holding back. There's a famous quote from a friend of hers who is like, you would never know when out of nowhere in the middle she would stop polite conversation and call someone a complete fraud. So yeah, she's a baddie, and
Yeah.
she wrote about it like that.
I agree. I think one of my favorite things about this play is that it like totally encapsulates the like be specific so you can be universal. It is such a specific political situation that she's writing in, and such a specific scenario for their lead character, and yet through that, in like 40 short pages, maybe more, maybe less, she manages to create this whole story that's so powerful and moving and about change.
And I think there's so many, to your point of specific and universal, there are so many places right now where this story feels horrifyingly relevant, just like hauntingly relevant. And I am really excited to hopefully see that. Well, we know we'll see at least one reading of it this year, so stay tuned.
Yeah,
Happy
Sky,
to go.
round 2.
Speaking of haunting relevancy, the next play that I would like to talk about is a play that we discovered in 2020 in our first inaugural list again. So this was the summer of 2020. Protests were happening all over the country in support of Black Lives Matter, and we were all in COVID lockdown. And then we found this play by Alice Childress called Wedding Band, which if you have read this play, I see some of you nodding and you understand why I'm talking about the context we discovered this play in, because the play is about an interracial relationship during the early 20th century flu pandemic. So really was just sort of a perfect moment of this play now. but holds up even obviously a couple years later, and was as relevant in the time it was written, which was, I believe, like the 1960s or something, as it was the play, as it was relevant to the time she was writing about, which was, you know, the 19-teens as it is now. So truly just an extraordinary piece of writing. It's just, Alice Childress is one of the best playwrights of the 20th century, hands down. This play is sensitive, this play is empathic, this play is heartbreaking, this play is tender. It is a beautiful, intimate portrait of how our politics play out in our microcosms. All of her characters are just real people, and it is just a beautiful, beautiful piece of theater. It is one of my favorite plays I've ever read, and haunts me to this day.
When we were making that first list in 2020, we were really talking about, well, what is the cutoff for a classic play? You know, should we only do ones that are in public domain? Like, what do we do? Where does that end? And I think part of that question was answered very easily by reading Wedding Band, and we were like, well, I don't care when this was written. This is a classic. I mean, we do kind of care, but it was definitely really helpful to have such an excellent play that was just like, nope, you're going up to at least 1960. We're including this, and then we keep pushing the boundary. But yeah, it was. How could you not? How could you not?
It really is, and I think that it's what Emily said of like, we define classic theater as that those plays that just transcend time, of like, this play now, this play 40 years ago, this play 100 years ago is equally as poignant. And God, I hope that I would love to live in a world where this particular play is less poignant in 200 years, because I think hopefully that is a better world. But it is so beautifully written that I think, at the very least, it is an incredible piece of theater that should be studied, should be put up, should be produced forever.
Amazing. Continue producing it. Chiza.
Okay, so if you're looking for a 17th century Spanish Baroque play, which I know all of you are, if you are looking for a verse play, if you're looking for a play that literally has a character named Don Juan in it, if you are looking for a play where the female lead plays with your emotions as the audience member or the reader, because you're sympathetic to her and then she does some stuff and you're like, oh no, she didn't, and she really did, then I got a play for you. It's called The Stone Host by Leslia Ukrenka. And as you may be able to figure out from her name, Leslia Ukrenka is Ukrainian, and a Ukrainian playwright writing about 17th century Spain. Who knew? And yet she does it absolutely skillfully. And it's this beautiful play that starts off in a graveyard and deals with all of these machinations, and really deals with the tension of when you have aristocracy, so the people from Madrid versus the people, more sensual people from Seville, and the clash of the rules and what is considered proper of folks who consider themselves more aristocratic versus people who may be a little more sensual. But moreover, and this is why for me it very much is an important piece of work, this play deals with how a woman negotiates power when she's disenfranchised and she does not own property. And so, because this is 17th century Spain, and I'm at a minute, we're going to stop. But because that's the point I want to talk about a lot, but we could jam on that one a little bit. I'll open it up.
Consider listening to our podcast if you want to know more.
Well, especially because we just did a reading of this recently.
Starring the wonderful Sky and the wonderful Gagarin.
Yes, which was super
Directed by Teresa.
Directed by Teresa. It was one of those, this one also has a twist ending that I promise I won't spoil. But
little metaphysical.
Very metaphysical in its ending, but also like one of those plays where I don't know necessarily what kind of a crowd we were expecting, but the crowd that we had when we did that reading was so vocally responsive, especially to the end, which is like, I think just like fabulous proof of that. First of all, Lecia knows how to write a thriller.
Yes.
I've read a few other of her plays, and they all ride this really almost like Hitchcockian kind of level of like building tension. And yeah, that's where I'm gonna leave it on that.
It is also, I guess, the two things I want to put in is one, it's also really funny. Like,
Yes.
it's a very intense verse play, but it's hilarious. And I'll just say that our pitch is usually, if you wish you could see Lady M take on Don Juan, this is the play for you. And I think that says enough.
I would just add, it's even worse than Lady M for me because Lady M starts off like kind of brutal. The lead character Anna doesn't. You really feel sorry for her because you feel like she doesn't have the agency to marry for love. She has to enter in a marriage because of political and financial reasons. And then she does some Lady M stuff later on, and you just are like, okay, sis, I was rooting for you, but then you did this. But then, to your point, kind of slay a little bit in terms of a lot of stuff she did. So
I will also say it has one of the most heartbreaking breakup scenes.
I love that all of our second rounds are like, and then this one's a little sad. So continuing that theme, Anima, or Her Soul, is one of my other favorite plays, and it is the earliest play that I know of that is really beautifully dealing with Me Too themes. It's written in the late 1800s by a Jewish-Italian writer, Amelia Pincerle Rosselli. And I love that you have to say her middle name because her grandkid is also named Amelia Rosselli and became a famous writer also. So work legacy. But Anima breaks your heart and then it builds it back up again. And then maybe it breaks it again a little bit. I think this is a story that should, if anybody is like, oh, I think I want to do a Chekhov play, but I don't know which, please read this first. If you really decide you need to do Three Sisters, cool, but Anima is just a heartbreaking, beautiful story that, as a survivor of sexual assault, I just think it talks about that conversation with such heart and nuance that made me really feel seen and like so grateful that a woman was handling this topic. Like, I just felt like that was, once again, I was like, this is why we need this list, because we need women to be telling their versions of these stories and giving their versions of these monologues. And it is not all just like trauma dumping. It is like reclaiming, what do you do with that trauma, and becoming a powerful badass of a human who has, spoilers, a really great relationship after that. Ha! Okay, I'm done.
I think also the thing that I really like about this play is like there's no sort of sensationalizing or like trauma porn aspect of it. Like it's dealt with very tactfully and tenderly and carefully. And it is also very much a play that is less so about the experience of assault itself and more so about how you become a person afterwards and who is that new you afterwards and how you find new communities and new ways of being in the world, which isn't something I see on stage. And is a really, I think, important narrative of like survivors are not just survivors, they're also fully rounded people who will go on to have experiences beyond this thing. And so I think it's a really beautiful story because of that.
I'm gonna bring us back up a little bit from trauma.
Yay!
And I'm gonna talk about this play that throws love triangles out the window and introduces you to the love octagon. So Juana Inés de la Cruz's House of Desires is this funny, like hilarious, farcical love story where everyone is in love with the wrong person and they're all locked in a house together. Not locked in, perhaps, but they're all stuck in a house together, we'll say. And there's these wily servants running around doing people's bidding, maybe messing some stuff up on their own. And everyone's just trying to figure out who's who. Sometimes the lights go off and you don't know who you're touching.
It happens to all
It's
of
a
us.
comedy. It's a
All of
comedy.
us.
It's comedy. And has a happy ending, but in the middle there's just a bunch of hijinks and mistaken identities and purposefully mistaken identities, perhaps. And it's just a delightful comedy written by, I think her moniker was like the nun writer or something. So Juana Inés de la Cruz was a nun because famously she said that she had to give up like bodily pleasures in order to be more creative. So discover this play.
Which is also interesting because she wrote some sexy lesbian poetry.
Very true.
Yes.
Also, if for some reason, Billy Porter, you're listening, there's like a 3-page monologue in this that I would love for you to do. Once again, call me.
Well, so I mean, we want to talk about like, I feel like so much of Expand the Canon loves to focus on like women in like a feminine experience, because that's often where a lot of our playwrights are centered around, and that's often the stories that they are writing about themselves. They're writing about women who experience things that they feel like they want to talk about. In this play, what I love the most is how all of the women are like constantly, they're just trying to find like the guy that they love, because the guy that they love is great and the guy who is in love with them is trash, and just like so they're like so over it. But then also like within, it's very Kathleen Captasuter did a fantastic production of this about Repertorio that I saw, and what was so delightful is that she put like a Love Island kind of spin on this play. And I will tell you what, I think that is probably one of the smartest modern ways to adapt this play. When we talk about hijinks, like people getting like locked in rooms and like throwing temper tantrums because they didn't get picked at the matching ceremony.
You know what? They should, because it's sad to not get picked. Anyways, I'm kidding. We are unfortunately out of time for this little game.
Yay.
But we have 36 plays, only 10 of which we talked about, so consider going and reading about them, listening to us talk more about them. I know you want to hear our voices all day long. Okay, I'm going to pass it to you.
The drinking game is how many times are we going to tell you to read these plays tonight? So we've talked a little bit about sort of the past of Expand the Canon, as I think Giggs and Emily may have alluded to at the beginning. We have 36 plays, which for those of you real nerds out there is the number of plays in Shakespeare's folio. So we're sort of in this reflective moment, but we're also thinking about what happens next. And in sort of processing the last few years and in reviewing all the fabulous plays that perhaps haven't made the lists yet, we have come to a realization, which is, well, it's not really a new realization. Basically, there's a long time problem, which is short plays. Short plays have been the bane of our existence since this project started, for a couple of reasons. One is we just don't know what to do with them. They're hard to pitch to major theater houses in the States and beyond. But the reality of the situation is that a lot of these writers were writing at a time where they were not considering the commercial viability of their plays. These are writers who were writing closet dramas. They were not expecting to be produced. They were not writing so that they could get picked up and transferred to Broadway. They were just writing for writing's sake, or writing to put on plays with their friends in a parlor. And so because of that, a lot of these fantastic writers were writing short plays because that was the medium that was accessible. So we've had this conundrum for a few years of we would read these phenomenal pieces of theater by writers that we think should be studied and celebrated, that we didn't know how to pitch and we didn't know how to position on this list. And then we said, screw it. So we're doing a list of short plays this year. You heard it here first. And we're really excited about this for a lot of reasons. One, like we said, there's a few plays that we have just been sitting on and agonizing over how beautiful and excellent they are since this project started. And so to finally have the chance to potentially celebrate some of those, I think is something that we're all very excited about. So keep an eye out for that'll be coming this year. And looking beyond that, I think there's a lot of stuff that we've done at this point in this project that we're really proud of. All of these plays and partnerships, and we have some more exciting partnerships, which we'll be talking about shortly. But there's so many more things we want to do. I mean, I think, with unlimited budgets, we'd love to be able to travel the globe and meet with academics all over the world. And there are so many of these plays also because, they were not widely studied at the times they were being produced, that exists perhaps only in one form in like some obscure library in this one city that like this one librarian wrote about 20 years ago and nobody else knows it exists, and it's completely inaccessible. Nothing's being digitized because nobody cares, and so we'd love to be able to send our people to those places, or if that isn't financially feasible, we'd love to be able to continue to expand the Canon network, which has been, I think, one of the more rewarding parts of this project is like all of you. Thank you for coming out tonight and for continuing to be a part of this and for being geeky about this as we are. And we've met so many incredible people from all over the globe who care about this mission. There is a desire to expand the canon. It is not just us in this room, and there are people all over the world who can help this happen. So even if we cannot, in our dream scenario, go on a jet-setting tour of the world where we read all these incredible plays.
Billionaires.
Although if you
Call
want to
me.
write us a check.
Or even millionaires.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not picky.
Call me
I'll
also.
fly coach.
A solid thousandaire would actually help us.
Thousandaires.
So we just put out our budget.
All
We
of
could use it.
But barring anybody donating large sums of money, which you should if you can, but we're excited to connect with people. So if you know people that who live not in this city, or people who do live in this city, who care about this project, who you think would be interested in this, if you have an aunt who's an academic in this one obscure place in Italy or whatever, connect them with us. We're so excited to talk to them. And this project is, like we said at the beginning, it's not just the 5 of us on stage. It really is a community effort. We have our reading committee, we have our research committee, we have volunteers, we have people who donate their time and their efforts and their brilliance and their taste, and we are so grateful for all of that.
And we have some really cool partners.
And we have some extremely cool partners, which I think is Emily's way of saying wrap it up so we can get on to the next section.
Yeah.
As alluded to, we have a really exciting reading series coming up this year. So all the plays from our 2023 list are going to be produced in a fabulous reading series, and we are so excited to have a number of those fabulous partner companies here tonight to talk to you, because you are now tired of us. So to that end, I'm going to hand things over to Teresa to introduce our fabulous guests, and we hope you'll grab another drink, stick around for a fabulous little Q&A.
Yes.
Starting in like 5 minutes.
In like 1 minute.
Like that.